Want to go on vacay together? I'm here with Phoebe, and the two of us are starting to think about June 9th to the 14th, which is a week-long retreat in Rhinebeck, New York, that is going to be framed around the book I launched last year called Powered by Me. So you may have heard about it, but some of you may be new here. And so if you're new here, let me just take a minute. My name is Neha Sangwan. I'm an engineer, I'm an internal medicine physician and executive coach. And my latest book is on burnout. So it's about where you are from burned out to fully charged at work and in life, and how you figure that out by whether you have a net gain or a net drain of energy on a physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual level.
And I'm Phoebe Shaw. I've been working with Neha for 4 years as her assistant.
4 years?
Yes, 4 years. Time flies.
I'm not sure, like, your generation hangs on for 4 years. Yeah. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. It started right in COVID. Yeah. So I've worked on a few programs with her before. I've been traveling with her. I've gone on vacation with her. And we thought it would be a great opportunity to record a video and chat.
Yeah, about the co-creation.
Right.
Like the co-creation of what we're thinking about creating in June. Once a year, maybe twice a year, but usually about once a year, I do something like at a retreat center. So like 1440, Omega, Kripalu. And I really want to get back to doing that because it gives me a chance to get out and do something that's not corporate. You know, we do so many programs and virtual things, but like, what about in person, in nature, 5 days, where it's not like this drive-by 5-second or 5-minute answer, but like we'll have time to do a deep dive.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about some of you have good insight into what people ask me about. What you're experiencing, what the most like common pulse questions and ideas are that come in. And so what if we just went down the book? So the book has 5 sections, right? So physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. What are some of the questions you see people wanting to know about in the physical?
So physical is always like a hard hitter. I think that people love the physical section because like, especially with COVID, there's not a lot of things that I think people get lost, I think is the right way to phrase it.
Yeah.
In the physical realm, and with illness and with autoimmune disorders.
Like chronic.
Yeah.
Like chronic things. You know, something also that people talk about that I think the distinction is that we make is like, when do you go to traditional medicine and when do you go somewhere else?
Right.
And what I'd say is, a very simple way of saying that is, if something's an acute crisis, if you have COVID and you're having trouble breathing, like if you know you're getting sick, you have a fever, you're coming down with a cold, and you need someone to take care of you immediately, go to your traditional doctor because they're going to have answers for you. They're going to give you medications. If something's really going wrong, they might need to do surgery. That's traditional medicine, acute care medicine. Now, what it is not great at is anything that's chronic. So you guys have been on the journey with me. For those of you that have been following me for a while, you know I had skin lesions. I was struggling. My skin was like changing color. I've had food sensitivities that we've talked about. Oh my gosh. Can I just tell you, Phoebe's not just my assistant. She is an insanely good cook. So she also has helped me with gluten-free, dairy-free food and have, you know, corn and egg-free and all the restrictions that I had. You know, what you eat and how you nourish yourself really matters.
Right.
You know, you've learned that too.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think food has always been such a love language for me because, like, especially culturally, food is just so important. It's how you express love. And so food has always been my connection to that and expressing it for people. But yeah, food definitely determines your health a lot, especially just on a biochemical level, like what you're eating. Yeah. Definitely helps your body a lot. And I've learned that with my own food sensitivities. Yeah. And it's been a big journey, like figuring out how to nourish yourself. And
yeah, well, I think that is the piece, right? It's not just feeding you, it's really about healing you.
Right.
And so your food has absolutely helped heal me. So what I'd say is, if you want to understand how food is medicine, if you have issues that maybe you've been going to a traditional doctor for, but they haven't gotten better. Maybe they temporarily got better, but you still have the issue. That's something we could definitely discuss. And what I'd say is, there's lots of ways that I do it. I do it through functional medicine, which is, my doctor is Deanna Sharon. She's amazing. Natural Health and Healing. I think it's it's not .com, .net.
.net, yeah,
.net. Is where you can look her up. But if you haven't heard of functional medicine, you can also look up drhyman.com, drhyman.com, Mark Hyman. He wrote the foreword to my book as well. He's the chairman of functional medicine and the chair of the Cleveland Clinic's program on that. So if you're struggling with something chronic and you're not getting the answers and you're going to an acute care system, which is traditional medicine, that might not be the right place to get those answers. And so while I address food, sleep, energy, and movement in the physical section, the other thing we talk about is deciphering the unique language of your body.
Right.
So when I get out of my comfort zone, my throat constricts and my stomach turns. What happens for you?
I get very cold and then hot very quickly.
Oh,
really? My temperature changes and then my palms get very sweaty. And I'm trying to think of what else. My throat constricts.
Yeah. So if you want to understand and decipher the signals in your own body, that's something we can delve into as well. So what about the mental energy? What have you learned there?
It's funny because over the years, there's just so much, and so it's always exciting to just talk about each, I guess, level, because there's so much that you can cover. There's so many ways that people can
comparisons.
Explore. Right.
You've graduated from college and you're, in the work world now. And,
right.
There's all these comparisons around, is someone going onto their master's program? What job did you get? The mental energy. So we have approximately 70,000 thoughts per day. And 90 to 95% of them are the same as yesterday. Just think about that. So it's only when you have a shift, you move to a new place, you transition in life, you have a child, you get married, you have a breakup, you retire, whatever it is, that all of a sudden you're kind of in this place where nothing is the same. Mm-hmm. And while that might be uncomfortable and our throat might constrict or your temperature might change or whatever it is, the truth is it's like a growth phase.
Right.
Right. And it might be uncomfortable, and I think that's why people don't like it. But the mental energy section is about what thoughts are on repeat, just kind of like a playlist. Your playlist that you put on repeat. I am so guilty of that. Oh my gosh. But what are those thoughts that are on repeat in your head, and are they a net gain or a net drain of energy?
Right. Are they judgments, or are they positive thoughts, affirmations that you have towards yourself, or...
Well, I think of your generation, and I think of social media and the judgments and comparisons.
Right.
Everybody's showcasing the most glamorous side of their life,
right.
And how that is supposed to connect us to each other. But in fact, sometimes I think it separates us.
Yeah, I think that I've heard this a few times, people saying that social media really has become a highlight reel of people's lives. And so it's easy to look online on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever you use, and see this girl with a perfect body. She's living in this beautiful place, and it's sunny always. She's living on a beach, and
well, you kind of helped me do my social media,
right?
And so we get the best clips of what we think other people will enjoy,
right?
But then there's the reality of the days you come in and I'm not doing so well.
Right. Absolutely.
So I think there's something really real about, I want you to take off your feet and show people what you're wearing on your feet right now, because we're filming this video and she's in slippers, right? So the fun part is we're at my building, and we come upstairs and we do our videos in this cool area, which is the lounge. And, there's something about the thoughts that we create about needing to be perfect that just aren't true. And so if you're someone who's a perfectionist and you're ready to kick that habit and learn how to do it differently, I'd love to see you and focus on where the mental traps that drain you of energy.
Yeah.
What about emotional? What do you think about emotional?
Yeah, something really big has been the depression versus burnout. You know, like what is what? When am I depressed? How do I know if I'm burnt out? Especially like in American work culture.
Yeah.
You know, like what is what?
Yeah, those
Where am
questions have come up a lot.
Yeah.
So let me give you a little excerpt. A little excerpt of that would be, so the book that is powered by me is about burned out. And when you're burned out, it's kind of like a tense, like driven energy. Like, I want to change healthcare. It's like when I single-handedly thought I could change healthcare. And so I went, about trying to change the hospital and the system and the food in the cafeteria and like, you name it. And it felt like I was pushing a boulder uphill by myself.
Right.
And then I definitely burned out. That was 20 years ago now, which is kind of amazing. And I thought it was the worst thing in the world. But I have to tell you, it cracked me open to the most authentic life.
Right.
And yesterday I was at dinner with someone and she literally asked me, oh my gosh, you're going to the World Happiness Summit. Are you actually happy? And I have to say, this is my third year going to the World Happiness Summit and speaking there. I think I can actually say, not that you don't see me get mad or get frustrated by things or feel sad sometimes or down.
Yeah.
But like overall, burning out 20 years ago was at the time really devastating, but now I can say it led me down the path of me figuring out what makes me happy, and from that place of happiness, how can I serve the world?
Right.
So the answer to her question was, I kind of am happy.
Yay.
Not all the time,
Right.
but if you ask me, like, in my life, the right building blocks are in place, and when things don't go the way that I want them to, I know that I have the right team around me and I'll figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is depression? Depression is often, it doesn't take that long to get to. Like, burnout can take months and years, and you're driving for something, and like, maybe at some point you realize you can't do it all. But depression is more like unhealed wounds from childhood that might get triggered by something. Maybe you had a loss when you were young, and something happens that brings that up again, So when we went on vacation together in Como, I remember you saying that there was like times there that you just didn't, like, you felt less joyful than the scenery around you.
Right.
Right. What did you learn about that?
Yeah, I think that I've struggled with depression on and off for a lot of my life. And in Como specifically, I remember my boyfriend had just left. And when we go on vacay together, we like have people visit. And so your boyfriend and his friend both flew to Como for like 5 days. And we had this like magical Villa d'Esta lunch. Like, it was kind of amazing. Beautiful, absolutely majestic. And, I adore Zach. And so I think that what it was like, I don't know if it's abandonment, just like this keen sense of loneliness.
So he's leaving on his regular trip, his plane ticket out.
Right. Yeah, he's just going home, like he's just doing his thing.
And you felt a deep sense of sadness and loneliness.
Yeah, because I spend like every day with him. And like I bounced between homes growing up. And when I started dating Zach, it was the first time that I had actually lived and found one home.
Wow.
That was my own.
Wow.
And so for me, Zach became my home.
Wow.
And so when he left, it was like, oh my God, I'm not home.
So that's what we're talking about. Like, if there's something that hasn't really been as healed inside you, it can be triggered in a moment.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're kind of reeling and you don't know why. Yeah. So burnout versus depression. Depression is more of a stuck energy. It can happen pretty quickly. It can be triggering of something. I mean, it's much bigger than this, but I'm just giving you some ideas around it. What about social energy? What have you heard that people are interested in? And I mean, you get all the requests and
Right.
all of that. So what are you thinking there?
Yeah, what I think is huge, especially with people my age, is loneliness. Like especially with social media, like this disconnect from
So
the
it's
people
so
around
funny,
you.
right? It's to connect you to everyone in the
Right,
world,
Right.
and it does that in some ways.
Yep.
But the net of it is
Yeah.
like a net social drain.
Right. It's when you look up from your phone and you're in the airport sitting, waiting, and everybody's on their phones and no one's talking to each other. you
Yeah,
know?
and there's a good book on this for anyone who wants to explore this. Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, wrote a book, I think it's called Together. And actually, he's going to be at the World Happiness Summit, so that's pretty cool. And then, so we'll talk about social. And the other thing that I'd say is conflict. People don't know how to lean into healthy conflict. We're in an election year.
Right.
And if we actually stop talking about the things that matter, I'm not sure where we're going to be.
Right.
And we need to learn the skill, and that's something I'm happy to teach you. I have a book called TalkRx, 5 Steps to Honest Conversations That Create Connection, Health, and Happiness. You can find that on Audible. And learning how to lean into healthy conflict is a really big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boundaries also.
Right.
Boundaries, agreements, conflict, and then this whole idea of socially, when you're upset with someone, talking about them, not to them.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big one. It's called the drama triangle. And what about spiritual energy?
Just like emotional agility, self-trust,
Yeah.
how to build self-trust, really.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know if your own self-trust is broken? Like, how do you recognize that within yourself?
Yeah, and I think this whole idea, I mean, Phoebe, one of the reasons that I'd say I've seen you grow a lot in 4 years. And I think that's something, would you say that's something people are looking for in whatever job they're going to be in? Like that it's this experience where you're not just growing a skill set, but like you're growing as a human.
Yeah, absolutely. People want, at least from what I've spoken to people about, people want jobs that invest in them and that they feel valued in and feel like they can grow.
Yeah.
I don't think that anybody wants to bounce from job to job.
Or
People
just
want to-
coast. I mean, sometimes in
Right.
your life, if you're raising a family or like whatever it is, you might need your job to be like a little bit on autopilot.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think, this idea of, I think the world is going faster and faster and faster. And so what spiritual energy is about is it's about your highest values. It's about what matters to you. And so if you understand what you value, and then you understand where you trust yourself, you'll know that by where you take risks and where you don't. So in my life, I take risks mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, financially, entrepreneurially, for sure. But I don't take as many risks physically. So I'm not the one that was jumping off the bridge in Como, right? Or like driving a boat that doesn't have like a boat driver.
Right.
You guys were willing to do it.
Yeah.
And so physical risk, because you have brothers and all of this, is different.
Right.
And then romantically, I, for many years, did not take risks. I've started to take those risks in the last few years with Raj.
Yeah.
But where do you take risks and where do you not take risks?
I would say growing up, especially before my food sensitivities, I took a lot of physical risks. I loved like ziplining upside down, and I loved stuff like that. It's just like the adrenaline of it. And eating random foods and being like, oh, it just tastes good. Let's see what it is. But I don't have a lot of confidence in social. I think interpersonally, I find it harder for me. That is where I have the self-trust.
Okay, so you're going to take less risks there.
Right.
Awesome. Well, listen, we would love you to come to Omega Institute June 9th to the 14th. We will spend a day on each of these topics and dive into them and customize them to you. If you cannot make it to Omega Institute June 9th to the 14th, 2024, what I want you to know is this was your mini retreat. These ideas, we'd love to keep the conversation going on social. We'd love to hear what your questions are and do our best to answer them in future video blogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is our year. We can do hard things. We can lean into the conversations that are real and that matter. Let's heal that loneliness. Let's talk about those judgments and comparisons.
Yep.
Let's make sure our thoughts are giving us energy, not draining us of energy. And when something in our body starts communicating with us, let's go to the right level of help and healing that we can. And most of all, let's align with what matters most. So we hope you've enjoyed this mini retreat, but we really hope you'll join us June 9th to the 14th at the Omega Institute.
Hope to see you soon.